we are back making another Naruto cosplay. This time I've decided I'm going to make Rin. So instead of making a whole outfit from top to bottom, I can take a shirt and a pair of shorts that I already own, just add like the apron, the socks, the little pouchy thing, and obviously the headband, and then there you have it, a Rin cosplay. So I think that's where we're gonna go. I guess we'll get started. The apron's kind of complicated because there's no visible seams in the waistband other than what looks to be a couple of like openings where the tie comes through. So I think what I'm going to do is make it in two pieces. So I'm going to have the front piece like this with a waistband, and there's going to be an opening here, and then two large buttonholes, and then the back piece is going to be like this with the same width waistband, and then it's going to have a couple of tails that taper down like this, so that when you put the two on, the back piece comes on, these two are going to go through the opening inside the waistband and out the buttonhole. I hope I explained that okay enough. The socks, I'm basically going to wing it. I'm just going to hold them up to my leg and see what we need to do. Little pouch, we're probably just going to make a little square thing, and then the headband we're going to make out of some foam. Let's do it. Time to get started on the socks. So I have this red like spandex kind of fabric, and that's what I'm going to use. I have actually already had a go at making one just because I wanted to see if I could figure it out. I am going to remake this one though, because I just used the thread that I had still in my machine, but I just kind of wanted to get a feel for how it would go because I've never made socks before. And what I ended up doing is I made a little heel strap on the bottom, so that it's not a full sock, because she does wear like little sandal things and her little piggy's toes stick out the bottom, so I wanted to be able to not have them be full socks, but still have them be nice and secure so that I can pull them up. So I'll show you what this one looks like, and then we'll get on to making the real ones. Okay, so So basically there is a seam that runs along the inside. I put a little strap on the bottom so that I can easily pull them up without risk of them falling out. But if I do choose to wear sandals like Rin does, obviously they still look normal. I don't know if you can see, I didn't bother finishing the top because it's a spandex fabric. It's not going to fray or anything. The only thing is you can see this little seam here, which I don't really love, and it does tend to roll. They probably do need to be a little bit tighter because they do fall down a little bit. So I'm thinking I sort of have two options. I can either just make them tighter and hope for the best, or I can get some of that plastic bathing suit or lingerie elastic. It's like a plasticky kind of material, and I can run that along the top, and hopefully it will stick to my skin. But yeah, I think it looks really good. So far, I'm pretty happy with it. For a prototype, time to get started on the real deal. Okay, so basically what I did is I brought it up to where I wanted it, and wrapped it around, and I pinned it in place like that, all the way down. Can you see that? Okay, let me move. Okay, cool. So that's the general shape that we want. Changed my mind. I actually want to do this a different way. I want the seam to be in the back. Alright, so I've gone and cut the piece of fabric in half to make it a little bit easier on me, and what I'm actually going to do is pin it in the back, because then the seam will run down the back of the leg, and I think it will make it easier to do the little strap down the bottom. When I did this one, sorry I can't be bothered moving the camera, so when I did the little seam on this one, I had to like continue the side seam all the way around and then make a second seam, whereas if I did the seam in the back I wouldn't have to do that. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Hello, chunky boy. How you doing, handsome? Oh, here comes the other one. Hey. Hey, baby. Oh my god, it's covered in cat hair. Thanks, Charles. So now I'm just gonna sort of even this out a little bit where it needs, see where it's like wrinkled? I'm just gonna even it out, pull it, make sure that everything is smooth and ready to go. I will draw a line, sort of draw my shape of the little bottom strap, cut it out, transfer it to the other piece, and sew it. I might actually draw the line first. I think that makes more sense. Alright, so now I need to find some roughly matching thread. I don't know why I picked up the gold. None of them really work. We can try these pinks. Oh, that's actually not terrible. That bright pink. So I went and did a zigzag stitch down the chalk line. Also, I found a bobbin in my machine with that maroon colour. Like, how perfect is that for colour matching? Anyway. Cool. So I'm gonna try this on, see if we need to make any adjustments, and go from there. Oh, she's quite snug around the heel. That's okay. That is actually looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, that's actually feeling pretty good. I like that. So now what I'll do is I will measure how big we want this to be. Right there, I think. And that. Cool, so I'll put a pin in, I'll take this off, we will cut the seam allowance off, transfer this shape onto the other piece of fabric, do that one, and then we'll have a matching pair of socks. Time to sew. Let's try this. Nice. Okay. I think they look pretty cool, and I think it looks much better with the seam down the back. Definitely, like, as I'm moving, they are falling down. I can feel them falling down. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some of that plastic elastic stuff. And I'm just gonna stitch it into place along the top. Alright, moving on to the next thing. Time to get started on the apron. So I have this just plain white cotton fabric. I have a fair bit of it in just like this really long strip, but it's kind of the perfect length. So I think I'm just going to use this. I think I'm just going to cut a couple of squares at half my waistband measurement, plus a seam allowance for the edges. And then I will do the hem. So I'm figuring this out as I go, so this is pretty messy. Okay, let's draw it. let's draw it and then I think it might make more sense. Alright, so back to our original drawing. So this was our very crude sketch of our apron. So what I'm going to do is basically cut out these squares first using my waist measurement. So we want 80 centimeters plus a hem on either side, and we might do a hem of 1.5 centimeters. So let's do 81.5 centimeters, and then the length is just going to be the length of the fabric. The waistband, I'm going to do just like a basic fold over waistband, and we might make it 5 centimeters. So this is going to be actually 10 centimeters by 81.5, so 10 by 81.5, and then it's going to fold in half, so it will end up being 5 centimeters. And then these strips we will figure out later. I realized it's not 81.5, it should be 41.5, because 80 is my total waistband. It's 41.5. Hold on, I need to write that down or I'll forget it. Oh, I just realized I only added one seam allowance. I didn't, it should be 43 centimeters because there should be a seam allowance on either side. Oh my lord. I'm gonna cut that again, twice. Look, maths was never my strong subject at school, okay? Right, let's start again. I'm gonna make the back one 45 and we're just gonna see how we go. There's my front and my back panel. Now to cut out the two waistbands, we want 43 by 10. So we've got two waistband pieces and a front and a back piece. Obviously I still need to do these tie pieces, but I'm gonna figure out the measurements for those later because they're gonna need to be at least 40 centimeters to get, or sorry, at least 20 centimeters to get around to the front, and then enough for the tie. So I'm gonna figure those out later. So what I'm gonna start with is doing the hems. I'm gonna iron 0.5 centimeter hem all the way around, and then a 1 centimeter hem all the way around, and then I'm going to top stitch it down. I am going to miter the corners because it just looks really neat, especially when you're going to see it. I'm going to do that on both the front and the back pieces. So I've gone and pressed just around the 3 edges, and I did some neat little mitered corners just to make it a bit prettier, because you will kind of see the inside of this because it's not completely closed in. So I just wanted to reduce the bulk in the corners and just make it a little bit neater. So that's what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and sew them down. So I've done the hems and I just went and gave it a really quick press as well. So now it's time to put the waistbands on. So for these, I'm going to go ahead and do the front one first. The back one I need to figure out the ties because the ties will obviously attach to the sides. The front one I am, actually for both of them, I'm actually going to interface them. Especially for the front one because it's going to have those little buttonhole-y type of things on them. Okay, I'm going to go and press these on. Cool, so I've just done the interfacing on those. So now I'm going to go ahead and hem the front piece. Exact same way that I did the sides. 1 and 1. Iron it, top stitch it, good to go. So there is our top stitched waistband. So now I'm going to fold it and press it in half because that is essentially what the waistband is going to look like. So now I need to figure out where I want to put the openings for the ties. So I'm basically just going to go like, that's the midpoint, there. Maybe 5, 6-ish centimeters either side, I think could work. and I'm going to mark that and just do some buttonholes. But I'm going to make sure that they don't go through both sides of the fabric, they're only going to go through the front of the fabric. On here, this is my buttonhole foot, so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch. Now we're going to go and sew the buttonholes. And then we have our 2 buttonholes. Okay, so we've got our buttonholes, and now we need to open them up. So I'm going to take a pin, put it right along that bar tack, grab my seam ripper. There we go, now we have an open buttonhole. I'm going to do the same for this one. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my front piece. So we're going to go right sides together. Now because this fabric is so thin, I should be able to sandwich it in between here. And actually do an enclosed seam so that I don't have to do any top stitching. So I'm just going to go ahead and repin it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and sew that. Oh, so there is our tube. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it right side out. There we go, and we are left with a beautiful seam that we don't have to top stitch. So I'm going to go and quickly give this a nice iron. So this is where we are at with the front piece. So I've done the little openings and they're just on the front piece, not on the back. And I've left the sides of the waistband open so that when the ties come from the front, they'll come through the waistband, out the openings, and we can tie the little bow. Now, here's the back piece. We need to put the waistband on. But in order to do the waistband for the back piece, I need to put the ties on. So we need to figure out how long to make the ties. Now I already said they need to be at least 20 centimeters each to get round to the front, and then they need to have some length on them to do the bow. I reckon we want them to be 60 centimeters each. They need to taper because they need to start at 10 centimeters and then eventually be the width of our opening, which is 2 centimeters. So they need to start at 10 centimeters width and then get down to 2 centimeters. So they do need to taper, and they need to taper pretty quickly within that like 20 centimeter piece. Okay, so let's work this out on the fabric. Alright, so this is what I've come up with. Hopefully you can see it. It's basically like a triangle that tapers down into the tie shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this end to the waistband before folding it. And then I will end up having to top stitch the back waistband, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. It's going to be what is easiest and the neatest way to finish it this time. So I'm going to cut this out twice, one for each side, and then get on with it. I am also going to interface these, so I'm going to get some interfacing out and cut that out too. So we have our interfaced front waistband pieces. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach them right sides together to either end of our waistband, just like that. I attached the ties to the waistband and I pressed the seams inwards. So I've just gone and pressed one edge, the seam allowance down, so that when it comes time to do the top stitching, it just makes it a whole lot easier. I'm now going to go ahead and attach this waistband right sides together to the back portion of the apron. Alright, so I have attached the waistband to the apron. So now I'm going to go ahead and press the seam allowance up and continue pressing the seam allowance up all the way along the tie. Then what I'm going to do is once the seam allowance is up, I'm going to press the waistband itself in half so that I can top stitch. That is the waistband all top stitched down. It's time to try it on. Threading each end through, just like that. And then this side as well. So it goes through the opening of the waistband and out the buttonhole. Oh, without the tie falling out, hopefully. It's probably not the day to wear white pants because you can't really see what I'm doing. They're met. And we can tie the front. Just like that! Oh my gosh, how cute! Okay, so the pouch is just like a basic little thing like this. And then it's got some kind of thing in the back. Where... What was that? Something just fell because it's really windy today. And then... like that. Okay, so basically I'm gonna make the pouch out of leftover fabric from my Naruto Cosplay, and then this little band that goes around the thigh, I'm just gonna use some navy colored elastic that I've got, and I'm basically gonna put like 2 buttonholes in the back of the pouch to make that nice and easy and to help it sit nice and snug. So basically how I'm going to do it, I'm going to get a really long strip of fabric that's going to be the front, the bottom, the back, the front, the flap piece, or one piece, and I'm going to get a second piece of fabric that's going to be that piece there, and then I'm going to use a snap. So these are basically all my scraps from the pants that I made for my Naruto Cosplay. So I need to try and find a piece that's long enough, probably that one there, to make the to make the front and the back piece. Edge off. So I don't want it to be too wide, but we do need some seam allowance as well. Yeah, cool. That looks pretty good. Now we're gonna get some side pieces. This piece here is the same size as that. Okay, and I'm just gonna like round off the bottom. Fold it so that they're the same, and we're just gonna round it off like that. I'm also going to do the same to the top of this. Just round it off. This might be too wide, actually. I might narrow this. Oh, I suppose with a bit of seam allowance. I'll leave it for now and we'll see how we go. I am going to reinforce this with some really decent interfacing. So I've got this interfacing which is very stiff. So I'm going to cut out all of these pieces slightly smaller with the interfacing as well. I've decided I'm going to line it, so I'm going to take another piece. I should really iron this. Oh well. So I'm going to take another piece of scrap and cut out a second piece of Alright, so I've ironed my interfacing on. Obviously it's not perfect, but it's fine, you get the gist, and it's going to do the job because it's nice and sturdy now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these pieces, I just realised I didn't even check that I'd done this on the wrong side of the fabric, and I've just realised I've put the interfacing on the right side of the fabric on every single piece. But you know what, that's actually, I'm going to use that as a style choice because it's a sateen, so it's slightly shiny. So I think I'm actually going to use the wrong side of the fabric for the outside. Is that a bad decision? It's fine, that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go, what is actually wrong side to wrong side? Okay, and I'm going to sew all around the edges using a really small seam allowance. And I'm going to leave the top open so that I can turn them right sides out. Now I'm going to turn these right side out. Here's one. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and give these another really quick iron. Okay, so I also just folded the raw edges in like that and ironed them down, and I'm going to go quickly top stitch them. Okay, cool. So I top stitched the raw edges down. So basically that's what our little pouch is going to look like, and then it's going to have the sides. They may need to be slightly smaller. That's okay, we can figure that out. So that piece there is too big. So I'm going to need to undo this top stitching and fold it down even more. So I'm going to do that now. Roughly clip that into place of where we want it. That really needs to stop about there, yeah. So we'll give it a bit of a seam allowance. I'm going to chop it there. I'm going to do one at a time, just in case. So I'm going to fold this in, iron it, top stitch it, and I'll come back. So I folded it down, ironed it, top stitched it. Let's pop it in. Bit of seam allowance. That is looking really good. Awesome. So now let's do the same to this one. Chop it off. There we go. Right, so now I need to figure out two things. One is where I'm going to put the closure, because I probably want to do that before I sew it. The other is where I'm going to put the buttonholes for the elastic, because again I want to do that before I sew it. I also probably want to mark where to put this. Okay, I'm going to mark where I want the stud for my elastic. That's how thick it is. Probably want it eyeballing this out there. Now my thought was to do buttonholes, however, because that seems easy. However, I'm not sure my machine will do a buttonhole wide enough. I mean, it might. Maybe it will. Just. Okay, let's do it. Let's do the buttonhole. Okay, so we have our buttonholes. Right, so now we are going to open them up. Okay, and now we have some nice little buttonholes. And in theory, they should fit our elastic through. It is a little snug, but you know what, I'm not mad. I also probably could have made it a little bit wider, but that's okay, it's fine. Wonderful. So now I'm going to add the little stud, the little closure. I want one of those, and two silver ones, I think. One of those. I am going to read the instructions because it's been a while since I've done this. So the socket is going here. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now the other end. So now, nice, good start. So now with the marks I made earlier, and then just, okay, so what I'm gonna do now is basically sew the sides on, starting on the edge, going all the way around. So I have decided I'm actually going to hand sew. I did it with the machine and it's just like it bunched really bad around the edges. I missed a little spot in here and I just feel like I'm gonna have a much nicer, like it just doesn't really look good. So I think I'm just gonna have a much nicer time if I hand sew it. So I'm gonna go ahead and unpick this and then start again with the needle and thread. Yay! My washing machine's going off, can you hear it? Is an unflattering angle. I look like one of those clowns from clowns? Were they clowns? No, they weren't clowns. From the Doctor Who episode, the first one with not the first one. Is it the second episode with Amy Pond in it, where they go, the one with the star whale? They go on that ship. And they've got those, the like elevators. I haven't watched it for so long, but they like make faces. They're like happy, and then when they're not happy with the citizens, they spin around and they're like, yeah. Anyway, that is unpicked. That is unpicked, cleaned up, ready for some hand sewing, which I love. Right, let's get it. This video is chaotic. Okay, so I ended up going in and making the little side piece a little bit smaller because I felt like it was too wide and it was sitting weird. So I unpicked it from this and then I unpicked, turned it around the other way, made it smaller. So now we are ready to stitch it back onto here. That's what it now looks like from the outside. I think it looks much better. And if we close it up, I think the profile is better having it a little bit slimmer. Time to do the other side. I will probably do the other side off camera. So I finished stitching the other side on and there we have it, our finished little touch. So now I just need to grab my elastic, cut it to size and thread it through our buttonholes on the back and we will be finished. Wrap it around to where I think a little bit overlap. Cut this. Now I'm gonna go and sew this together like this on my sewing machine. Alright, so I've sewed that together like that. So now we can try it on. There we go. Looking pretty good. And I can reach it to open it and close it. Nice. Alright, so to start the headband, I've got this massive piece of EVA foam. Full disclaimer, I have never worked with foam before, so we're all going to be learning today. So I did measure my forehead and I cut out just this piece of card. It's, I think, 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And I held it up against my forehead and I like the size of it. It'll give me a little bit extra, enough to sort of round off the edges. Yeah, so I'm going to cut it out of the foam and then we're going to have a go at carving. I cut out the basic shape using my X-Acto knife before rounding out the edges. Then I went over it with my Dremel tool to make everything nice and smooth. I then used a pin and my template to give me the general guide of the leaf symbol before going in again with my Dremel tool. Okay, so I have very lightly gone over it with the drill tool. Now that I've got the lines in place, I'm going to go over it slightly deeper. Unfortunately, my head is covering most of the footage. Sorry, team. Time for some heat. There we go. Is it perfect? No. I then went in with 3 coats of Mod Podge as a sealant before doing 3 coats of silver paint on top of that. I then painted the leaf symbol with just a black acrylic. I should have waited till the end to do this though, because when I went in with the luster wax to give it a shiny finish, it just covered over the black lines that I just painted, so then I had to redo them. Not perfect, but you know, it'll do. I'm gonna get started on the actual headband portion, like the fabric part. So what I did is I got out my scraps from my Tsunade pants again, but I basically cut out this piece, which is just a general forehead sized piece of fabric. It doesn't quite fit all the way around my head because you don't actually see the back of Rin's headband. So what I'm thinking is I'll do the headband around to about here and then a little bit of elastic to close it. I think that will mean that it sits nice and snug on my big old melon, and that it keeps it a little bit more comfortable as well, because there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. I don't have to worry about it slipping off. So this piece, what I basically did is I just cut a rectangle and then tapered it ever so slightly on the ends. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a second piece of this out, and then we will look at sewing them together. So I need to figure out how much elastic I need. About that much elastic. We're going with that much elastic. I feel like that feels good. Okay, so to sew these together, we want to go right sides together. What I do want to do is leave a portion of the top or the bottom open so that when it comes time to attaching the plate, it's just going to be a lot easier. So now I'm going to go turn it right side out and then I can put the elastic in. Cool, so I gave it a bit of a press and I folded the ends in, gave that an iron as well. So now I should be able to, just going to slide the elastic in each end and I'm going to top stitch along there. Cool, so I have stitched that elastic in. So now we have a headband, and that's what it looks like from the back. Alright, so now I'm going to punch the holes to put the little brads in so that I can attach to the headband. There, there, and there. Does that look okay? Yeah, that looks good. I'm basically just going to put it through like that at each of these points. What I'm going to do now is attach it to the headband with a little bit of fabric glue just to keep it in place. Then I can push the brads through. Off. So now that the glue is there just to keep it in place, I'm going to go ahead and put these little fasteners, these little metal silver fasteners into each of these holes through the first layer of fabric, and then the backs sort of splay out. So I'm going to need 6 of these. Let's try it on. It's super comfortable, like it fits really comfortably. Now I guess it's time to see the final result. This one's fun. I like this one. So what have I learned doing this cosplay? For starters, I learned a little bit about using EVA foam. I didn't like learn a lot because this is obviously very small. I did learn I need to make the contours a lot deeper than I think I do because the paint and the sealant fill them up. Like you can hardly feel this line here, and I swear it was really deep when I first carved it. So that's something that I learned. Also, next time just buy the wig. Because this spray stuff was awful. In terms of cost, the only fabric that I actually purchased for this cosplay, other than the foam, was the red stuff for my socks. It was about $10 a meter, and I used maximum half of it. So like $5, let's say. And then I used maybe $5 worth of foam. So yeah, $10. Everything else I already owned, or it was scraps, like this white stuff and the blue was all scraps. So yeah, $10 cosplay, pretty nice. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed and stick around to see what we do next. Bye bye!